Well, Jeff, let me ask you this question. The industry, it's come a long way in the last several decades. Can you share with me your experience on how the industry is viewed today, maybe versus how it was viewed decades ago?
Yes, uh, that's a great question. And if you'll indulge me a little bit, I'm going to give you a mini history of what happened
Okay.
and where we're going, because both from an industry standpoint and maybe even a kind of a legal or business standpoint. The origins of our industry go all the way back into the 1800s to the Yankee peddler.
Wow.
And because those guys were selling, they were direct sellers,
Yeah.
going right to the public. And we've actually had 3 points in time from a legal standpoint in our industry where the issues have been different. In the days of the Yankee peddler, the problem that our industry had, and this is often, there's a legal issue, there's a perception issue. And the problem we had was the guy selling off the back of a wagon and selling snake oil. The problem was the product. And then getting out of town real quick after they sold snake oil.
Got it.
And so if there were issues, it had to do with the product.
Yeah.
Now, during the first half of the 20th century, all of a sudden, we had folks basically going door to door, selling vacuum sweepers, encyclopedias, the famous Fuller Brush Man or whatever. And particularly when they were selling high-ticket items like vacuum sweepers or encyclopedias, they would get in there, they'd make that high-pressure sale, and then they'd be gone.
Yeah, they're out of there.
So during the first half of the 20th century, the problems that the direct selling industry had related to the presentation to the consumer.
Got it.
The net result was that somewhere after 1950 and the early 1960s, states adopted what were called, and the FTC adopted what was called cooling off rules. And it was intended to deal with high pressure consumer sales tactics in the home.
Buyer's remorse, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And the FTC adopted a rule which basically said, you know what, if somebody comes to your home and sells you something and you pay a lot of money in the excitement of the moment, you have 3 days. It's called a 3-day right of rescission. You have 3 days to cancel the transaction. That's where that came from.
Got it.
Now, in the 1950s, along came a change in how direct selling worked, which allowed for distributors, marketers, to not just sell person to person, but it allowed them to recruit other people to have a sales team. It was a novel approach,
right.
And it started with Amway, Shackley, and Mary Kay in the 1950s. And of course, they did very, very well. They stumbled upon a great method of marketing. Matter of fact, that's our $30 billion U.S. industry today. 16 million sellers, more than 100 billion around the world, probably more than 60 million people doing this.
So it was a very successful
It was
avenue.
a successful model. And now, with successful models often come the charlatans.
Yeah.
And in the 1960s, along came a program called Dare to Be Great, Glenn Turner. Companies paraded as direct selling companies, but really all they were doing was moving money.
Got it.
And the classic program that came along was the Dare to Be Great program, in which individuals were invited to a seminar where they paid $5,000, where they were taught to get other people to come to a seminar and pay $5,000. And lo and behold, they really tainted this model.
Yeah.
They tainted the model to the point that we had pyramid laws adopted all over the country, and they tainted the model so badly that in 1975, our Federal Trade Commission took a look at Amway and said, you know what, we think you're a pyramid scheme.
Even though they weren't.
Even though they weren't.
Got it.
Amway spent 4 years in litigation with the Federal
Wow,
Trade
that's
Commission,
painful.
and in 1979, a FTC administrative law judge, after having looked carefully at Amway, said, for various reasons, including your retail customer rules, your rules about having a reasonable buyback for people leaving the business, a product that they bought, the rule that you've adopted, what's called the 70% rule, which basically said don't buy more product for resale unless you've sold or used at least 70% of what you previously purchased. An FTC judge basically said, you know what? Amway is not a pyramid scheme. It is a real legitimate business opportunity.
Yeah.
That happened in 1979. Had Amway not won that case, there would be no direct selling industry today.
Probably not.
And it has been a bit of a tug and pull ever since. There's been an ebb and flow between our FTC and AGs. And really I'd say until the 1990s, we were still an industry with an image.
Yeah.
People often said direct selling, network marketing, all you would read is bad press and a bad image. And that's because there were some abuses, but that's how it was. All of a sudden in the 1990s, people started to pay attention to this model. And all of a sudden, companies started to explode around the world. Companies like Avon today doing 12, 13, 14 billion around the world with millions of distributors. Amway doing better than 10 billion around the world. All of a sudden, we had companies like Herbalife traded on the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Shackley bought by Wall Street investment houses. Warren Buffett stepping into the picture and spending hundreds of millions to buy Pampered Chef from Doris Christopher. All of a sudden, our press turned and we started having positive press, and we were known as the industry basically of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We were known as an industry, and we capitalized on things that had become important, that everybody realized that all new jobs in America come from small business.
Right.
And this is a great micro business. And all of a sudden, our industry started to come into its own. And then we went into a major recession when our stock market collapsed in about 2008. And so, Kris, it was most interesting. Companies might have thrown in the towel, but some of our largest companies like Avon and Amway said, you know what? Maybe our time has come.
Yeah.
And so if you took a look at the 2009 Super Bowl, it was most interesting. The Super Bowl, the first commercial in the Super Bowl was an Avon commercial. And it wasn't an Avon commercial for cosmetics. It was an Avon commercial for the opportunity.
Really?
Because
Wow.
what Avon was saying was, we're credible, we're serious, and that you could only say this if you're a real company. And they're saying, and we have an opportunity for you. And we are the new Plan B. Yeah. For all you folks who basically, your 401ks have disappeared, your retirements have disappeared, your bubbles have burst, or you've reached glass ceilings. We may be a Plan B. Maybe we're a part-time Plan B, but we're still a Plan B, and we're real, and we have something to offer, and we have good products. So they led with that commercial, and of course, they led with the commercial while all the guys were in the living room watching the beginning of the Super Bowl. And of course, the full expectation was that all of their wives and significant others would probably also be in the living room watching the beginning before they went into the kitchen to make the nachos, you know.
Yep.
And of course it was Avon. And of course they stuck around because the national anthem was then sung by Jennifer Hudson.
Wow.
Gee, who is Jennifer Hudson, the company spokesperson for? Avon.
Wow.
Did this happen by mistake?
No.
No. They realized, and Amway spent a fortune on basically promoting its brand. It had been absent on its brand for some period of time, but it started taking great pride in all the patents it had for its Nutrilite products and others. And companies in the direct selling industry also took pride about the success. While America was having problems around the world with all of our money going somewhere else, guess what has been one of our most successful exports? We have taught the world direct selling. We have taken that everywhere. Direct selling is almost like basketball is indigenous to America, and it does so well in Japan, in China. Even in China, where MLM isn't allowed, it still does. Amway does billions. And all of a sudden, there was a message, and the message was on Wall Street as we watched companies become fortune, go on to be New York Stock Exchange traded companies, etc. All of a sudden, our press, with periodic blips that can happen in the market, but basically, we kind of came into our own, and all of a sudden, here's one other great example. You know, long ago, Art Williams, who was just like a high school coach, I'm sure you know about him, he came up with an idea, let's apply principles of multi-level marketing to selling term insurance.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he built his company, A.L. Williams, into the largest seller of term insurance in the world, I think for Massachusetts Indemnity. And then it morphed into Prime America, which became a subsidiary of the Citigroup, one of actually Citigroup's most profitable groups, generating about $2.5 billion in sales, in financial services products, all through a network marketing, multi-level marketing approach, and generating tremendous amounts to the bottom line. Ultimately, within the last 2 years, spun off now its own New York Stock Exchange traded company. So all of a sudden, when you have Warren Buffett here, when you have Citigroup here, when you have companies like Excel that sign on 4 million customers, or Network 2000 that sign on 2 million customers for Sprint, or you see major companies from Texas and other states selling deregulated energy and having tremendous success, and companies coming in from many other venues, including real estate. And I know you're quite familiar with that. You take some pride there. Everybody is discovering that the principles behind direct selling, network marketing, duplication, etc., if done with integrity and done with ethics, can be very strong. And today, the industry is now very well accepted here, and it's well accepted around the world.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.